who are you? What do you do, and why should people care?
Oh, I don't know why they should care, but I've been a fintech entrepreneur for my whole career. I was the founder of the Instant Group back in the late 90s, which pioneered the software as a service business model, offering compliance software to IFAs and mortgage brokers. 2005, I launched Money Dashboard, which was a pioneer of open finance. And through that journey, we also created a business that spun out of it called the ID Company, which was at the time it spun out called MyCard. And I've been through many rounds of venture capital raising on the journey in extremely difficult circumstances, because at the same time as we were trying to build Money Dashboard, the banks were writing to their customers telling them not to use it. And that it was illegal and that they were breaching their terms and conditions. And I realized they'd written to every customer in the country. So it became pretty clear that something had to be done. And the first step was a conversation with what was known then as the Office of Fair Trading, but now the Competition and Markets Authority. And a few months later, I managed to get an audience at a political level with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury and the coalition government. And at the time, they had been reviewing what was called the Retail Distribution Review, if you remember that, Ali. So yeah, the Retail Distribution Review created this, within the UK, this context of advisors being highly professional and selling products that were in the interest of the customer rather than effectively taking commission to promote a product. And but the net result of that was slightly negative. There was positive and negative consequences. One of the negative consequences was the outflow of people that distributed products, to the extent that actually only 4% of the adult population in the UK got access to advice. There's one other thing that happened during this transition. It's a really important thing. We had the advent of the iPhone. And prior to that, of course, all the open finance stuff happened in the unregulated screen scraping world, the thought about putting an application in your pocket which could access enough data about you to be smart enough to help you was the antidote to what the government had been looking to do, which was offer wide-scale access to financial information and advice. So we managed to get the government in the UK Treasury, to support adding data access into the Second Payment Services Directive. And in 2012, 2013, it was in, it was out, it was in, it was out. And finally, when the ink went dry on the preparation for the new legislation, it was in. So that forced every bank in Europe to effectively be required to, with the customer's explicit consent, to share data from their bank account to a third party. The quid pro quo is that all these parties that were in the unregulated space had to become regulated. So that was the big transition. And my life took a bit of a change. I came out of Money Dashboard in 2015, and I'd been asked by the UK Treasury to form a trade association to give the banks and regulators somebody to negotiate with. So I became the director and I guess the founder and chair of the Financial Data and Technology Association, which became the association across the globe which has promoted open finance in North and South America, in Europe, India and Japan, and in Australasia. So I've had a period moonlighting in policy and working with regulators across the globe. I've been particularly close to what happened and developed in Australia, Brazil and India, as well as the UK, where I was on the steering group of open banking representing the fintechs. But I played similar roles in other markets. I was on the advisory board for the pan-European Berlin group on open finance, on technical standards, and worked extremely closely with the Brazilian implementation, which was great fun.
Have you heard of this thing called open banking before?
Come across it once or twice.
I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're here today. What has brought you to Fintech Islands, and what do you think of the event so far? And then we'll talk about open banking here after.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, it's Barbados. I mean, I've not been here before. It's a lovely place. I wanted to come and I wanted to learn a lot about the local fintech ecosystem. You know, I have some hopes whilst I'm here to meet regulators from a variety of different markets. That would be, if there's a really good outcome for me, would be getting to know the regulatory affairs and policy developers within the regulators, and to remain in contact and be able to share information and best practice that's been developing across the globe in this domain.
What's the opportunity in the Caribbean, not just in Barbados, but the whole Caribbean as a whole, to almost be that kind of sandbox to leapfrog the current technological infrastructure?
Well, the people in the Caribbean have access to, I mean, with the usual caveat of divisions between people who are more or less wealthy or economically deprived, but they have all of the tooling here to enable investment, access to credit capital, and payments. Financial services really, really simple in that context. You either have an asset and you want to make it bigger, or you need access to capital to do something that you need, or you need to facilitate a transaction. And those are fundamental human needs. So I'll be trying to focus on figuring out how the policy and regulatory frameworks that enable those things to be more innovative, and probably focusing less on technical things that sit outside of regulation.
We're first sessions down into the conference. What's your thoughts of the conference so far? We've had a little talk about venture capitalism, a little bit about sustainability. What's been your sort of thoughts so far on the initial reactions to Fintech Islands?
Yeah, I thought the sessions we've had today were really interesting. I was curious about where the investor, the two gentlemen leading the investment thesis would go. They were very articulate and thoughtful about the importance of collaboration, particularly when you're operating, as you said, in particular islands where one population is small, but you might be able to figure out a marketplace that has a larger addressable opportunity to make it a sustainable business opportunity. So that ability to collaborate and to think cross-border, inter-island is really, really crucial. And then, the intersection with sustainability and climate issues is a cause that nobody can look the other way from. So I'm glad that they have put such a strong and clear tone on the whole conference, that is to be an ongoing part of the agenda here. There are things that we can do in the financial technology world. I'm thinking one startup I met recently, who've got a really interesting business looking at the technical efficiency of code development and the way things are constructed, so that they're more environmentally sustainable and using less energy, I guess, would be the key thing. Design thinking that's more efficient. So I'd be interested to sort of see how people are beginning to come up with practical solutions to contribute, and I guess that's the whole story, because everybody has to do something and figure out how they can contribute, and in the financial technology world it's no different.